The first time Jamie and I hung out, we were both in Massachusetts for the wedding of some mutual friends. She and several others had rented this big old house in Salem for the weekend, and after the reception shut down, all the Nashvillians went back and partied there. While everybody else drank and played games in the other rooms, we spent most of the night in the kitchen, bonding over Yankee Candle hauls on YouTube, the price of trailers and a local Pennysaver somebody had left behind, and our fucked up families. There's a kinship between people who have experienced loss. There's even more of one between those of us who knew that loss would come, but not exactly when. I knew from a fairly young age that my father didn't have so much time. Jamie knew this about her mother. To live with death before it's happened, that will cook into you a dark crust that has to be cut with something sweet, or at least something palatable. Jamie is funny, like really, really funny. The kind of funny that you just have to be born with. It's in the recipe of your genes. Even when discussing some really dark stuff, she has a sense of humor about it that makes you so at ease about what she's telling you, even if you haven't lived it. Early spring of last year, Jamie and I met for brunch, drank about 100 Bloody Marys, and talked about our dead mothers. Actually, we drank about 100 Bloody Marys, talked about our dead mothers, and laughed hysterically. It was electrifying. Grief doesn't have to be one thing or another. A couple of years ago, she did a stand-up routine at Springwater for amateur night, and her set was brilliant. I mean, truly. So much of it was just about her life, the sad parts, the unbelievable parts, about her dad, who at the time was recently diagnosed with dementia. And it was so smart. I mean, that's key. If you're not smart, laughing or poking fun at the misfortune of your loved ones can come across as, well, sociopathic. But this was way more Tig Notaro than Jeffrey Dahmer. Before this interview started, Jamie told me she wanted it to be serious because that's not something she's ever really able to be when talking about her family. She didn't want to trivialize the material, and she wanted people to understand that some of her experiences have really affected her. And it's not funny, even if she makes it funny. That's harder to do than it sounds. It's hard to suddenly let down your guard when you've processed everything through the lens of gallows humor and self-deprecation, if that's been the crutch that's kept you from falling apart. She's never said this, but I'm willing to bet that she often feels like I do, which is profoundly alone. But loss and feeling alone, those might be the two most fundamental ingredients that go into the human condition, which is why you add vanilla extract to almost every baked good, to cover up the dry and bitter. Loss, it happens to everyone. It happened to us. It will happen to you. So you might as well laugh about it. Today on Memento Stori, I'm interviewing co-host of podcast Hot Minute, comedian, actor, and dog mom, Jamie Bradley. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, I think. I'm excited.
As good as any of us are?
Yeah. I mean, that question's very dumb to ask anyone these days. Not that you're dumb. I do it all the time because I have to interview people for work, and I'm starting to talk to more people that I don't know really well for my job, strangers I don't work with. And I'm always like, "Hey girl, how was your weekend?" And
Right.
I'm like picturing me like crying in my bed.
It's just a formality from like our former lives when you might have a variation of how you feel, which doesn't exist anymore.
Right. I had a dear friend from college that I have not talked to in like a decade, and we reconnected really recently. Like something happened to remind me of him, and he now has started texting me pretty much every Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. I'll get a call or a text from him. And today he finally was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I'm clearly only reaching out to you when I'm wasted." But he's like, "That's my favorite time when I'm not super depressed." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Wow.
That's dark, but I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
And you're thinking of me.
Thanks for thinking of me. Yeah, totally. I've actually also like not rekindled because I didn't really lose touch, but have been talking to people more from my past who I haven't in a long time. And I think it's boredom on some part. Everybody's got a lot of time to think and they're like, oh yeah, like what
happened to her?
Yeah, what's she up to? So there's that. So anyway, I appreciate you doing this, taking time out of your schedule today on this Saturday to do this. So I just want you to start by telling me what you have brought or what you have to talk about today. What is the object?
Okay. So my object, when given this prompt, I was like, this is an awesome idea. I have so many dead people in my wake. I know so many people who have passed on. And then I was like, no one has given me anything. And at first I kind of panicked because I said yes. And then I was like, I don't have like an armoire, or like I got some old doubloons from my Uncle Jeff. Like
you raced down to 8th Avenue Antiques to try to find something and build a story around it.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have to do this by the end of the month before they close.
Right.
But then I realized I do have some inherited things from my mom. So my mom passed away in 2010, and we'll get into obviously most likely more of the story there.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't at fault. No, but she didn't really give me anything. And I think that's what was tripping me up at first. But really what she gave me was a lifetime of neuroses and trauma and some recipes. So I today, and I'll show them to you. First of all, they're in this Ritz camera thriving business. I don't even know if that's still around, but they're in a container. Several years ago, my aunt came to visit and took a bunch of photos of me and my grandmother, who's also since passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like some of my grandmother's jewelry and stuff like that. Again, she didn't give it to me. I sort of just like took it from her house. I was like, I'm stealing this before someone throws it in the garbage. I basically had this envelope of photos like with my grandmother and my aunt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cute. We went to the Hermitage and took a bunch of photos.
And they're all black and white?
They're in black and white.
Yeah.
And they're from like 10 years ago. But I realized not that long ago that all of these recipes I'd shoved into this container. So basically I went through before someone could throw them in the trash inevitably at my family's house. And it's just every recipe that like reminded me of my mom. And it's literally the only thing in her handwriting that I own. And so this through the years has, and they're like recipes like dump cake, Barbara's yeast rolls.
Yeah.
But I think the kind of seminal, the centerpieces, first of all, also, I don't know if you can see this, and we'll obviously take photos and share them.
Yeah.
But they're just like well-loved.
Yeah. There's stains all over them.
They're covered in stains. They've got liquid paper, which is from like the 90s, which is probably like just pure arsenic like on them. This one's from 1995, which is just so funny now to even think that was a long time ago.
Right.
And so, yeah, the two that really stand out are Sylvia's Best Ever Cheesecake and Jamie's Cinnamon Rolls. And so those are the two that I would like to focus on today.
Absolutely.
Just because as I really started to think about what these are, I started with like fond memories of them. And then it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. Yeah, spoiler, it usually is. So I just want to sort of the question about the actual recipe card. So can you just describe about how big they are?
Yes, they are the two that we're going to focus on.
Yeah, let's just talk about those two.
The pile is just everything from tiny ones to like old pieces of lined paper. I'm going to put the rest of these away before like my dog comes in and pees on them. They're going back into the envelope. Yeah, I don't know. What is this size? It's the large size of standard.
It's like a note
card.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, 5x7 sized index card. They are yellowed with age, covered in stains that I'm assuming are from years of use and not just like from being in my possession. I actually did question it. I was like smelling them like, what is this? Yeah. So they're just standard kind of things, but they're in her handwriting. And so like to be honest, like I didn't get them out until this morning. And I was not even positive I knew exactly where they were. Like I mentally could picture where they were in my house, but they're not items that I handle or touch or think about too much because one, I don't, I'm 35, so I'm not sitting around making fucking cheesecakes all the time and handmade cinnamon rolls.
When is the right age to make those, Jamie?
Well, I'll tell you, as basically the indentured servant of my mom. Yeah. So they're full fat. A third of a cup of melted margarine as part of this recipe, like a box of graham crackers. Trying to see what else we have. I mean, just full flavor.
Right. So your mom died of heart disease?
Yeah. Her blood was just parquet.
It's just like Crisco.
I'm having a hard time breathing. Can y'all hear my CPAP?
So were these recipes that your mom was given, or were these like original recipes that she figured out herself and then wrote them out?
So these were recipes that she basically concocted obsessively over years. So, when I talk about having a complicated relationship, it's one thing to like hold an object. Like there's an inherent kind of weight. Funny because paper's light, but there is this inherent weight to like, this is a relic from the past of something that can never be replicated. Like if these get destroyed, they're gone forever. So even handling them and touching them, there's that strange feeling of like, wow, she touched these items and she is dead. But the layers to this are that, growing up, so my mom was disabled. She had MS actually. But,
sorry.
No. It's the only way we're getting through this, girl. Yeah. That and my hookah. I wish I cue a bubble sound. No, I'm not smoking a hookah. But anyway, you can cut that part out. Clearly, I'm uncomfortable.
This is like a morning radio show where I'm like, Jamie's mom and her hookah. Back on the buzz, whatever.
She just loved her apple hookah use. Anyway, so she had MS. She was diagnosed in the early 80s. So by the time I was born in 85, she, was already ill. So like basically my entire childhood was sort of, there was this cloud of urgency, I think, in her mind to impart every piece of wisdom and every life learning that she had. So that led to me having a very distinct childhood, different from my other siblings who are much older than me, where I'm in like second grade and she's like, okay, there's something called a douche, it's usually just a medical thing. I mean, just so tell me like incredibly inappropriate stuff. Like, okay, some bodies are embalmed and some are cremated. Don't cremate me, and so I always grew up just having these kinds of just totally age inappropriate conversations. Yeah. And as she lost more physical sort of ability, she loved cooking. She loved coming up with recipes. I think some of it was boredom. We lived really far out in the country. Some of it, I think, is just like a feminine pride where it's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm going to cook. But she wasn't really a chill kind of gal. So it wasn't like, if I crack a few eggs and make some mistakes, it's fine. It was like, no, this has to be the best, most perfect recipe. And she would obsessively tinker. But as she lost her ability to do that, I became her hand.
So can you tell me, how does MS affect you?
Girl, how long is this podcast?
I mean, it's a degenerative disease, I'm gathering. Okay.
Yeah. So MS is a deterioration it's a neurological disease, but it's a deterioration of the myelin sheath that covers the spinal column in the brain. And it also puts plaques on the brain, like plaques on your teeth. So MS is a really tricky, difficult disease even to diagnose, because depending on which part of the spinal column that's affected first, or the part of the brain that's affected first, some people go blind, some people can't walk, some people start having speech issues, and they know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. And so it can take years. And this may have changed. This is like my 90s knowledge.
Sure.
Now people's prognosis is a lot more positive. But when you get diagnosed in 81 and you're poor, like, good luck. So yeah, so it basically just slowly steals all of your abilities to cognitively, physically function.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I was in kindergarten, I guess she started having to walk with a cane. Just a lot of really difficult things started to happen around that time. Also because people didn't really know how to treat it. Like, she had chemo unnecessarily because they thought that might help. Why not?
Wow.
That seems smart. And so that didn't help. And so, yeah, so from basically the age of like 4 or 5, I started having to do things for my mom, which, progressively just got more and more intense. But at a really young age, I started like cooking and quote unquote, helping her in the kitchen. And by the time I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, like, I was cooking dinner every day and breakfast and everything for my whole family all the time.
Wow. So you've actually used these recipes.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, by the time she, I believe, developed Sylvia's best ever cheesecake.
Who is Sylvia? I have to know that.
That's my mom. Yeah.
Oh, so she is Sylvia. Oh, okay.
She named her own recipe.
I love it.
I tell you a lot about her, the person, just in case you're unaware of who's in this house, whose cheesecake this is. Not Jamie.
Right.
But yeah, so this is Monday, July 24th, 1995.
Wow.
To be exact is when she, in her lab, the America's Test Trailer Kitchen, landed on this version of the recipe. And so yeah, 95, I would have been in 5th grade.
Yeah.
So by that point, like, she was completely wheelchair bound and like really not cooking Sylvia's best ever cheesecake or the 75 iterations that got us to this. So the second recipe that I have, which is 97, is, you're gonna like it, Jamie's cinnamon rolls. And the story of Jamie's cinnamon rolls are that this is something that no fucking 7th grader wants to be doing. Because these cinnamon rolls are, you're getting yeast and you are making dough rise.
Oh, wow.
Rolling out the shit. And I hated every moment of Jamie's cinnamon rolls creation. We worked on the fucking recipe for weeks and weeks and weeks. And by the time we got it, pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually really good. And I always just thought it was so funny because she was like, this is your recipe. Like, these are your cinnamon rolls. Like, I have my best ever cheesecake. You've got a thing. And around like 7th grade, she was like starting to lose her speech. And like, it was definitely a very steep decline from that point. So it's funny even just seeing this and pulling it out, because I'd really never thought about it that much. And it's like, wow, Sylvia's best ever cheesecake, Jamie's cinnamon rolls. It was truly, I think, her gift to me, I think, but also in this ironic way. It's like, I am not going to make these. I don't want to eat these. We have like a lot of obsessive tendencies. So I have like a totally terrible body image and like eating issues that totally come from her. And it's like so ironic. My sister and I laugh all the time just about our like wild, I mean, it's not even funny, but just like every issue we have with food is from this person that made us cook food constantly.
Yeah.
And so just even that this is like the thing that's left with us, it's like, for years it ruined me. Like, I didn't cook in my 20s. I didn't want to touch food. I was like I would cook to eat and to live, but I did not want to be a baker. I didn't have like a love for being creative in the kitchen. And yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
So have you like even, I mean, you said you don't handle those recipes on like a very, regular basis, but have you ever pulled out, Sylvia's cheesecake or your cinnamon roll recipe to actually use it? Like, have you made those as an adult?
I made the cinnamon rolls when I first moved to Nashville because I think I wanted to like show off in some weird way, and I fucked them up super bad because they're really hard to make.
Yeah.
They're super complicated.
Like, it has to be 76.5 degrees outside, and you have to be at a certain elevation, and like,
This recipe was developed in a trailer. It was at like sea level at 100% humidity. And so then I'm pretty sure like one of the ingredients is parquet. So it's like, God, I love old Southern recipes. It's like, use oleo, parquet, them. And yeah, it's like all brand names because capitalism is.
Right. So you tried it, and so they didn't turn out.
They were really hard and just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like embarrassed and I was like, this sucks. And it's kind of expensive to bake.
Yeah, it is really, that was going to be sort of my next question, is you had said that these take like weeks and time and iterations to develop. And baking is, people who are always like, oh, baking is so relaxing and it's such a hobby to me. Like, I'm like, I could waste money so many more interesting ways than baking a bunch of shit that's going to go in the trash.
I want to get drunk and do drugs. I don't want to make 15 versions of a fucking flan.
Right.
Yeah, no, that is something I was thinking about just this morning as I was prepping in my brain for what I would say. Like, that alone was so interesting to me because we did not have, and I'm really not exaggerating, like we lived in a trailer, obviously like exorbitant medical expenses.
Right.
My dad was the only person working. I think he had like a union telephone, very blue collar job, telephone worker job. And so, yeah, we just struggled to make ends meet as it is. And there are many memories I have now where I'm like, oh yeah, our electricity was cut off. My mom totally lied. Like, and so that I was pondering that exact thing this morning, like what a weird choice. And we also the town we grew up in was called Hardin. It had 500 people. We didn't live in Hardin. Like my post office box was Route 1, Box 308. Like I didn't even live on a street that was a real street. Like it was like literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so to get to town, to go to the store, to go to Brookshire Brothers or H-E-B, we had to like get in a car and like get weeks worth of food, at a time.
She wasn't just running down to the corner store to get Pam or to get, flour, whatever it was that she needed.
Exactly. So, I mean, just the logistics alone involving that, like we actually did go to the grocery store a fair amount. And so it's like, this is like gas and time, it's so weird to me. And then I'm like, I would have probably enjoyed like new clothes. That would have been really cool. But thanks for the cinnamon roll recipe.
Yeah. Why do you think cooking and baking and these recipes were so important to her? I mean, you said that you felt like it was maybe like a feminine badge, or there's something in her that made her very like proud of this. And I'm just curious if you know what that is or why that would be.
Yeah, I have theories, but it's something that when you talk about the fact that this person isn't around anymore, like this is a question that I never would have thought about as a child or when I had time to ask, because like I said, she really stopped being able to communicate with me in 7th or 8th grade. She didn't pass away until 2010, but she couldn't, like I didn't have a relationship with her in any way or an ability to actually like talk to her. And so, so I think a lot of it was just pride in keeping a home. Like I think because we didn't have much and we lived in this pretty shitty situation, like the inside of our house was as nice as she could make it. It was very clean. We didn't starve, even though I think there were times probably when food and this hobby were prioritized over other needs that we had. But, I think for her, if your belly was full, like you were rich enough, And so I think there was probably some sort of poverty tie-in because she was the youngest of 8 children and grew up in a place called Tarkington Prairie, and she was the first kid in her family to have store-bought underwear, and like they were like, Sylvie's spoiled. like they would like bathe in the fucking yard. Like she literally had to go out and get well water with a gourd.
Oh my goodness.
And they were like, hey, well, Sylvia got the toilet. Jeez, little Miss Priss, and so I think for her. And her mom was sort of known as a very good cook. And it's funny, I have one of her recipes and it's mom's popcorn balls.
That sounds good.
They're actually fucking delicious. And if I could go back in time too and eat some of that food, I have a feeling it's fine. I don't know that like grandma's popcorn balls are really, actually they're pretty fucking good, but like she made dumplings and it's like, are those dumplings good? They're probably fine.
Right.
Probably good.
Yeah.
But everyone sort of like elevated grandma and talked about how amazing this was. And so there was a lot of pride, I think, just in food and being able to like take care of your family and like nourish them, so to speak. And so my mom was like, let's make cheesecake.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. You know, I'm sitting here sort of listening talk about that. And I think about my own mom, who also, she grew up in a really rough situation, grew up with like no money. My grandmother, you know, they always made a joke. Like my grandmother was married like 6 times or something, but you know, she would like meet a man, and as long as he had a car, she was like on board. And so, you know, my mom like moved around a lot. There was and so when you're raised like that, or you're raised just, you know, in poverty, but you understand that there are indicators of a lady, right? You understand like that there are things that a lady knows or can do. And so it's interesting what people latch onto. From my mom, it was always like she had impeccable nails. Like she was always so careful with her hands and her nails, and like making sure that she had the hands of a lady, even if she didn't have anything else. She wasn't educated the way a lady, whatever. But so I think it's just fascinating what people kind of link to being refined or elegant, or being linked to the kind of person living the life that they would want to live as they see themselves, you know?
I totally. Well, and you know, I think for my mom, like she was the same way. Like she had beautiful fingernails, and she also, when you speak of education, like she had to drop out of high school because she got pregnant with my sister. So my sister is 15 years older than me. So we were bookends. We have a brother in the middle, and like she and we got completely different people as a mom, and like somehow the chaos of both of our situations like makes us incredibly similar. Like, and then our brother's kind of an alien. Like we can't really, like he had like the best, he was coddled and had the best like sort of family. And then on this, you know, one side, my sister has like a manic teen poverty mom. And then I have like disabled, like Terry Schiavo, you know, making me bake mom. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. But she had a husband. She was 17, taking care of a kid by herself, and they got divorced. And I think once she met my dad, I sort of have this vision in my head that she very much like tried to be a little wild in her youth and rebel. And I think that's kind of why her first marriage fell apart. And by the time she met my dad, she was like, shit, I'm poor and I have a kid, and I need to be the model wife that like is beautiful and sexy and cooks and is awesome. And that's all I know. And it's worked for me. And so by the time I came around, she was like, by God, you're going to do it, you know? And so it was like boot camp as a kid.
Right.
I would wake up every Saturday morning. And I think an aspect of this that's really interesting is that she wouldn't be like, okay, Jamie, get the sugar out. She'd be like, okay, I'm going to get the sugar out now. And like she
oh, wow.
would literally like sort of act as if she was doing this, but like I was just literally like her hands. And, you know, and so she would sort of break that facade if I started making mistakes or if I was not doing something well. But it really was a pretty, in retrospect, manipulative and kind of fucked up situation, because it robbed me, I think, in a lot of ways of some autonomy in how I spent my time and like what I wanted to do. And I think, you know, maybe that's just also a little generational. Like I think a lot of kids these days like have maybe too much autonomy or too much like, you're going to be an individual.
Right.
Rebecca, you're going to be you. And my mom's like, you're going to be me, bitch.
I mean, you were literally being an extension of her in those situations. Yeah. I mean, I think that's incredibly fascinating. She's like, I'm going to get the sugar out. And that was like your cue to like, go get the sugar or, you know, go get whatever. And I'm trying to think, you know, and from her perspective though, like you kind of said, like, you know, that was like her gift to you in some way. Yeah. Even if it was a gift you didn't really want, you know, it makes me think, I know. Makes me think of like Fancy, like that was the dancing dress. She's like all she had to give you, you know. But if
she's like, here's the deal, you're gonna be a prostitute, but by God, you're gonna be a good one,
right? But the idea that like she's like, here's what I know a lady does, and so I'm going to give you this thing that. This is going to make you a lady. And she maybe would not have ever articulated it in that way or even been conscious of that. But that has to be, I would think, something that she was doing, you know.
There's a photo, I think it's in here, and I'll take a picture of it. And
yeah, please do. And send me some pictures of the recipes too.
There's a picture of the three of us, and it's me, my mom. It's me, my mom, and my mama who live next door.
Oh, I love it.
That
I can.
And I am holding like clearly just a full sugar, like Coke of some sort.
Yeah.
She looks like a poodle with this perm. Mama's got this like wind up 1991 like lime green camera.
I love her transitions glasses or whatever she's got going on there.
They're great. I think this is Anita's husband. But in the photo, I've got my hand on my hip. I'm just defiantly looking at the camera, drinking a full Coke. And like when I started school, I remember like being very taken aback that there were rules for me at school. So like I would just get up and walk over in the middle of class to my lunch kit and take out my tea that my mom would, my sweet tea, and just start pouring like my sweet tea in my little thermos cup. And my teacher was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just getting some tea." Like,
right.
You know, and so there was very much like in some ways I was very controlled. I was an extension of her, but in other ways, like by being an extension of her, I was incredibly rebellious and defiant of like all other authority. It was like, she's like, "You're going to submit to me, but basically fuck everybody else because you're going to rule and make cool cheesecakes and
cinnamon rolls.
Struggle your entire life with authority."
That's really funny.
So my dad stayed in the house where my mom eventually passed away until this year, and he's actually in a memory care facility.
Yeah.
He's, you know, got memory care issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I hadn't been back to the house in a long time. It was really difficult for me to be there because she died there. And Crockett, Texas, which is where we eventually ended up, is a pretty depressing town that I don't endorse a lot of people traveling to. You don't have a reason. And so it was just during some trip in the past, like 10 years to Crockett, I think after she passed away, where I was just like, fuck this place. Like, I'm not going to come here. And so one of those trips, I just went through the house and I took these recipes and I took a box. Like, she was also just an avid, not good or skilled photographer, but just an avid documentarian of like every moment of everyone's lives. So I took all the photos that I thought she would have cared to survive and put them in a box. And I have these recipes and those photos. And that's pretty much it. Like, I guess I was, by the end, with someone being ill that long and not having really any agency, like she didn't really own things.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have clothes that I was going to wear. She didn't have jewelry. She didn't really have any, like I actually have one necklace of hers that I don't really wear, but it's just a simple, like delicate gold chain that she had. But so I think there was just something in me that was like, this is the only thing that she would care about. Like if these got thrown out, like she would be crushed, even though she doesn't really have say anymore. So so I took them and I inherited them by force, but it's not like anyone was competing with me for them either. That they would have ended up in the trash. And so I think that in and of itself is heartbreaking to think about. But I was like, this was something that she and I had. Nobody else knows how to make these. Nobody else had to make these, and as resentful sometimes of that as I am, it's also like, this is our thing together. So I'm, by God, going to, because she does have some like family members that I could see being like, well, I need Sylvia's cheesecake recipe.
Right. Yeah. I was going to ask, like, did your siblings get anything? And were they like, I kind of wanted the recipes,
No. And it's funny. Like, I think my sister doesn't give a shit. And my brother doesn't care either. My brother, though, if he found out like my dad had thrown them away, like getting angry, but no one was really like competitive for this stuff or has any illusions that they give a shit about it at all. Yeah.
So you keep them there in like a photo envelope, right? I mean, I guess the best way to describe it is like if you went and got like prints made at Walgreens or somewhere, right? Like then it would come in like a kind of hard cardboard envelope, and that's what they're in right now. And that's what she kept them in as well?
It's not. So they were in a recipe box, and for whatever reason, I didn't take the whole box, and it could have just been, it probably was just convenience. I was probably flying and was like, I can't fit this whole box in here. And I don't give it, like half of the recipe, the ones that she didn't write were like either disgusting, like 70s, like,
Jello molds and stuff. Yeah.
Like shrimp mold. Okay. But Pam, So yeah, I just sort of took the ones that mattered, and then everything else from like Good Housekeeping and Red Book got thrown in the trash probably. So.
When you look at those recipes, they're in your mom's handwriting, and they're in, like you said, she uses brand names to indicate ingredients. So like when you read those recipes, do you hear them in your mom's voice?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Funny because I really haven't like read them or looked at these until this moment. I mean, they're pretty straight up. They're not like too colloquial. It's not like my mama's recipes literally like, okay, you gotta just put a dab of oleo.
Right.
Know,
like she wasn't like Creole or something, and you're like trying to decipher,
Yeah, exactly.
Or Cajun, I guess. Yeah.
I think kind of to her credit and actually her personality, she really did go about these in this very serious way, like coming up with these recipes. And so I think out of probably some sense of like pride, she was just like, I mean, they're written as if Martha Stewart wrote them, like it's very matter of fact. It's very like precise. And I do remember too, like her putting the recipes together and like the process of getting to best ever was like 7 different versions. And it was like, she would wake up from a dream or something and like come wake me up and be like, I had a dream. I know why the dough didn't rise in the cinnamon rolls. We have to sift the flour. We're going to try that. And you'd have to do it. And my memory is like doing it in a very specific way. And then she would like write it down or have me write it down. And then it would be like, okay, it's strictly like, this is how this new version is made. We're not going to do the shit old version, like she very much, I think baking specific, like she really didn't cook very often. Like baking was her thing. And that is such a scientific precision based skill, which is why I kind of hate doing it now. Because I like cooking.
Right.
Just like creative and
a dash here, a pinch there, you can kind of fudge the numbers a little bit, but not with baking. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't do any of it for years, just from the sort of trauma of the whole experience. I mean, genuinely. But yeah, I think she took a lot of serious thought to how these were going to be. And it was almost like I don't want to say a delusion of grandeur, but I really think in her head, she thought, if there's any legacy I'm going to leave behind, like maybe my daughter will be famous one day and like cook these recipes. Like she never said that out loud, but she had sort of that sense of self where she never acted like a poor lady in a trailer. It was very much like, we are the shit.
Right. Or like, we are actually a really good family who's just fallen on temporary hard times kind of thing, maybe. Yeah. It sounds like it was something for her to focus on that wasn't sickness and deprivation, Yeah. But, what I also wanted to ask was, had life been kinder to your mom, what do you think who would she have been?
So she was also obsessed with genealogy. And so if life had been kinder to my mom, and she were still around, I think about often, and I'm just like, I can get on ancestry.com, which I do. And it's become this hobby. I almost was going to talk about that today instead. Like it's become this very Zen-like hobby where I can zone out and just sort of methodically fill in the family tree. And it's, I grew up going with her to like research libraries, looking at microfiche. And she was very proud of doing this research and sleuthing and finding out about her family and where everyone came from and all these, like amassing all these stories. So I think if life had been kinder, she probably honestly would have pursued that as a real thing. Like I think she was incredibly smart and very crafty. And I kind of feel like she would have gone far in whatever she wanted to do. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but I don't know. Like, I think part of me is like, I think she would have been like famous and like had her own TV show or something. Like she was just that kind of spark. Like we'd walk in a grocery store, which we were fucking at all the time. We'd, roll into the grocery store and like 15 people would walk up and talk to her. And then they'd walk away and I'd be like, who's that? And she's like, hell if I know. Like it was just like being with the mayor or something constantly. Like she was that kind of magnetic kind of person. And so I don't know. I mean, so I think in some ways, to your question earlier, like I kind of think these recipes and like doing them in her head, I think maybe she sort of imagined that she was maybe a less racist like Paula Deen. figure,
Yeah. Have you ever thought about putting them into like a book? Like, you can make them into a book, self-publish a book, or have you ever thought about doing it? Have you ever thought about doing anything with them, having them framed, having them tattooed on your body, whatever,
So the tattoo thing is funny. And I actually was thinking that maybe that's when I got these recipes, because a friend had gotten her mom's like beautiful letter she'd written like in a family Bible tattooed on her ribs. That's totally when I got these. I now remember. And I was like, oh my God, my mom's handwriting is all over those recipes. I'm going to go look at them. And then it's just like the driest ass, like high butter pan, set aside 1 hour, bake 350 degrees, preheated oven. It's like, how do you get a fucking cheesecake recipe tattooed on my ribs with like a Jesus fish or something? Work dough down to a floured round on my ass. Yeah,
a tramp stamp that just says like butter pan.
2/3 a cup of sugar. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so it's funny. Like I am now, like as of like today, but it was weird because preparing for this, I didn't prepare at all because I didn't even want to like go get these. Like I drug my feet and procrastinated on even pulling these out until about an hour ago. Because I was like, I know where they are. I know what they are. And handling them makes me nervous. And looking at them sort of reminds me that like I am not honoring her in any way with them, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little complicated, I guess.
Those recipes might have been the legacy that your mother thought she was giving you, right? Yeah. But we don't really get to pick our legacies. And so I think that listening to you talk about how your mom was this really like magnetic personality who could go into a store and everybody wanted to talk to her and everybody wanted to be around her, and that she was really outgoing. And you're saying, I feel like she might have been famous. And I think that it sounds like, I mean, I know you, so I can say this, but it sounds like you are a lot like your mom, and that you probably get a lot of your kind of like charisma performer, and you have done comedy and you have your own podcast. It's really funny. And I just think it's so interesting when people think about, especially their parents, like what they think their parents' legacy are for them. And oftentimes they themselves are the legacy,
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
No, it's, I thanks. Fuck you. I'm going to make this cheesecake. No, I mean, I thank you for saying that. And
well, no, I mean, it was just sort of my observation about it.
I think that's very true. And I will say too, like, we are very similar. We actually look very similar. And for a long time when I was younger, especially, and not as like sure of myself, like I feel pretty confident in who I am at this point. But when I was a lot younger, I definitely felt uncomfortable I hated going to any family function. I kind of hated being around even my own dad. Like I just could tell that I made people sad, or I felt like I made people sad because I looked a lot like her and acted like her and had similar phrases that I'm sure I got from her and things like that. And so, yeah, I kind of felt like a little walking ghost and just depressing reminder of this dead person. And so I think in some ways I probably rejected some of this cooking and stuff too. On one hand, because being her proxy as a child was kind of traumatic and a little weird. And I felt, a little robbed of my autonomy, and was a little angry about that for a long time, and was just like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to be in a kitchen. Like I spent my whole childhood, like being in a kitchen. There's no discovery. I remember going to college and everyone knew how, like, I don't know how to do laundry. And I'm like, move.
You're like, get the Pam for me.
You just spray Pam on the collar. It gets real crispy. My dad's covered in flies. And so I think I rejected a lot of comparisons to her. And that's probably why I didn't want to do this. And also because, I don't. Also with the pandemic, I'm going to eat this whole fucking cheesecake by myself at my house.
So you were saying that your mom, she thought she was reincarnated?
Oh my God. Yeah. So my mom was a very strange mix of incredibly Southern Baptist. She was an incredibly talented self-taught like piano player. She played like Southern gospel music. It was her favorite. So we were constantly listening to like Southern gospel music in the house. I was like trying to think of an artist. I don't know. Like, bluegrass Billy and Baptist. I don't know, like some garbage.
Mahalia Jackson.
And, yeah, sure. No, wider.
Okay.
Elvis. She listened to Elvis sometimes. But so on one hand, she was like that, which was cool and confusing because she also was super into ghosts and like hauntings and metaphysical things.
Wow.
And like she loved tarot and like horoscopes. And she claims that one time when she lived in San Diego, when she was like a wild teen mom, that she went to a seance as like a fun thing. And the moment she walked in, the medium panicked and was like, "You have to leave," to her, and basically was like, you're extremely susceptible to demon possession. And so she became pretty religious after that.
That rules.
It's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
so when I went through a very religious phase, probably because I just needed any sort of structure in my life when I was like 14. And I was like convinced that my mom was like possessed by a demon. I was like, she's not sick. Like they're trying to keep her down. She's a spiritual warrior. Yeah. So fun stuff like that. I don't think that anymore. And now I'm pretty sure it was like science. But
did you try laying of hands on her?
I didn't, I was non-denominational by that point. I was not a charismatic Christian. So
Yeah.
I didn't think I could lay hands, or I didn't know my spiritual gifts yet.
Right.
But she claims that she had a dream one night, and in the dream, and in my brain, I just picture like extreme drone footage, but there was like zoom in on some old elderly woman sitting on a porch, rocking back and forth, laughing. And that was in the middle of nowhere. And that was her dream. And then a few years later, when she was driving back from San Diego, divorced with my sister, something in her gut told her to get off the main highway and take this series of roads. And she didn't have a map, it's like in the 70s. And she ended up at the house that had been in her dream.
No.
She saw the house, and she was like, and again, she's telling me in like second grade this story. That's what I mean. Like she's told me way inappropriate things that now I'm like super happy she did, because I have these crazy stories.
Yeah.
But she claimed that in that moment, she just knew that she was dreaming of like her former self, and that she was that woman, and she had found her old house and like all this crazy.
That like literally gives me chills right now.
There's a bunch of other ghostly things that happened. She would often like be around when very bizarre things would happen that were also related to like people passing away. Like she witnessed, this is like turning into a different podcast, but she moved back in with her parents with my sister, and a grandfather clock chimed like a cuckoo clock, and the phone rang, and someone had died. And then like a few weeks later, it happened again, and the phone rang, and somebody had died. And like she was always around for these like crazy things that happened.
Wow. That's incredible.
So he grew up telling me all these like very crazy ghost stories and making fake.
Thanks for waiting an hour in to tell me about all the spooky shit that happened.
You're like, yeah, I don't really care about your relationship. Was she a ghost or
Yeah.
what?
Was she possessed by the devil or what?
And my sister and I have some scary ghost stories too. You'll have to let us back. Yeah.
So, house is on fire. Do you grab these recipes?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's sort of one reason why I also don't touch them, because I'm like, okay, I always know where they are. They're in the box in my room on this one shelf. They're high enough up. Like, and I've thought about this where I'm like, if water came in the house, they're on the ground floor. So if we're in a storm, I can grab them, but like they probably won't be flooded out. Like I've like thought about all these dumb things. They're close to a door so that, maybe I'll be able to grab them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely would grab the box and try. And actually, I'm at my desk right now, and I've taken some photos out. And so like, I will definitely, when this is over, put all of this shit back and put the lid back on and like not touch it again, just so that I like know exactly where it is, I think.
What do you want to happen to these recipes?
not a flood.
Well, I mean, like when you think about, and for me, because part of the whole point of this podcast is the idea that I have all this stuff from people who've died and like what happens to it and who gets it and who cares even. And so, and I don't know what the right answer is, but for you, like who gets this? Who wants it? Who?
And I'm at the age now where like I probably won't have children by this point. Like that's probably not going to happen. And that's a different podcast as well. There's like 5 different podcasts. There's a ghost one, there's a baby one. So I think probably younger, I was like, oh, I'll give it to my kids. And now it's kind of like, well, I have a niece, my sister's daughter, like maybe I'll give them to her. Like maybe she'll care. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to think about it, because then that means that I'm gone, and they're not like burdensome objects. So it isn't like I've got some old plutonium with me that I've got to legally discard.
Right. Or an old pull-out sofa that's in like puke green, who's going to get this? Who's going to take this?
Right. I think too, because I've always like sort of traveled light. This is the most rooted I've probably ever been in my life. Like I've never owned a lot of things and have I'm very sentimental about a very small amount of objects. And like that box is one of them. I have a handful of other just little trinkets and like pieces of jewelry and things that like really matter. But I think there's always, and some of it's probably scarcity and like poverty and just having to move around a lot and stuff where it's just like, I don't want the armoire. Like I would never want those objects. And so I think I try not to think about like bestowing that on somebody else either. I don't know. It's actually hard for me to acquire like nice things and want to have them and keep them because that's so foreign to me. Yeah, this is like it's
a different podcast.
This is now my Zoom therapy session every Friday at 8 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, and that was sort of a question I have too, which is like, do you own anything now that you feel strongly about being passed on to, like, you want this, whatever this is, this tangible item that you feel is representative maybe of you or something you've accomplished or whatever, like you want this to stay and be passed on and for somebody else to care about it as much as you do. Like, do you have anything like that?
I don't, I think I've consciously tried not to have that. And so I'm very obsessed with antiques. Like I love looking at them. I love like getting online on like auction sites and just looking at estate sales. And when I'm stressed, my like happy place dream is just me at an estate sale, but I don't ever buy anything. And like in real life and in fake dream life, because it's like if I buy a shitty thing at Target and it gets destroyed or I lose it, whatever, it's not a big deal. Okay. If somebody steals like the most important object of my life, then like, what do I have left? So I think I've always tried really hard not to bestow too much, but I don't think that's good or bad. I think that's been a point of self-preservation for me, but I also see myself as I get older, like wanting to get some of those objects. I don't have them yet. And I don't know what they are. And if you ever come into my home, it looks like a piece of shit. Like my car is decaying and like people are like, you have like pride in anything. And I'm like, my look, my reputation.
Right. You look great. I mean, your skin looks great. So,
I did do a peel today.
Maybe when you die, we can just have you flayed and have your skin preserved.
This is my face lamp. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, I'm willing to spend a lot of money on like my hair or like clothes or just things that sort of make me feel good. But like, I'm not usually the person that's like, I need heirloom dishes. I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that stuff can be burdensome. I have like a box of my parents' wedding china, and I only this year actually took it out and put it into the china cabinet I also have from my parents. But it was really, it was this thing that I did because it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to put these in here. This was where it goes, the display. But for years, I've carried that box around. I mean, this heavy box that I'm terrified of being broken. And while I'm glad I have it because it is, a physical tie, it is burdensome. And then I think about who gets this, like who's going to care about this,
I actually have a thing of dishes from my grandmother who passed away, but they're not like super nice. And honestly, we have a small storage unit and they're in there. And like, I've had that same thought where I'm like, so maybe, I've inherited, but even that, it's not like I inherited it. It's not like she bestowed it upon me. It was like at my aunt's house, she was like, hey, we're going to take these to the dump. And I'm like, well, I'll take them, but it's like, they're not even nice. It's not like even wedding china. It's like some mismatched. It's like just stuff that was in her house that I was like, so I guess I could have talked about that.
No, I like the rest. I like the recipes better.
Yeah. So anyway, this cup.
You're like, I don't really give a shit about this. This is from the JCPenney collection of 1976 or whatever, Yeah.
This is an old cup from Nuke. She's been there several times. It's the Christmas teal. It's like really that shit.
Is there anything else that you want to say about your mom or about her recipes? Do you feel any urge to make those cinnamon rolls?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
I kind of do. And then I know that I won't. 'Cause you know what's fun in the hot heat of summer? Yeast and baking.
Sweating over an oven.
And then eating hot yeast rolls. Yeah, maybe I will make the cinnamon rolls. I will say that once we can go back into offices, maybe I'll give it a try because I really can't have them in my house.
No, I understand that.
I need to take them somewhere or else my mom will haunt me for getting fat.
I didn't ask that, but what did you guys do with all the stuff that you baked? Did you all eat it?
Or my brother ate it.
Okay.
Yeah, we ate it. I do remember the cheesecake. So we didn't even get into this, but it's not super fancy. It is made from scratch and there's technique to it. But the topping is hilarious because you just basically dump a can of cherries on top of it and then pipe it with Cool Whip.
Right.
That's the topping on the
pipe it.
Pipe it. Yeah. Oh, bitch, I can pipe. Yeah, and so it just would sit in the fridge for way too long and get crunchy and gooey on the top as a can of cherries is want to do. And so I do have memories of this cheesecake just kind of getting disgusting by the 8th day that you're like, wow, this is rich.
Yeah, because eating it wasn't even the point, right? I mean,
no, not at all. It was almost kind of a sad moment when you cut into it and it all just got fucked up.
Yeah.
You're because I do remember part of it, there's some technique in how you let it cool and you cook it in a springform pan. And so when you remove that outer layer, if it's not set correctly, then it splits on the top and hence dumping the cherries on top of it because it will cover a multitude of sins. But there was definitely there was a lot of this just science and technique that went into it. And then it was done and it was well, we have it. Cheesecake.
Yeah.
Let's call Brother Mark and his wife and see if they'd like it,
Right. Brother Mark's oh, fuck, another cheesecake.
God. The trailer lady keeps bringing cheesecakes over here.
Thank you so much to my guest, Jamie Bradley. Our show is engineered and produced by Michael Eads and hosted by We Own This Town. Original music by Ryan Briegel. I would encourage everyone to go listen to Jamie's podcast, if you don't already, Hot Minute, which she co-hosts with Ashley Spurgeon. It's also part of the We Own This Town network. She can also be found on Twitter at Jamie Bradley. Thanks for listening and join me again in 2 weeks for our next episode of Memento Stori.